Hey, welcome to iFlip for Math Mathcast, lesson 11-2, multiply fractions and whole numbers. I'm Mrs. Gooding, and our quote tonight is by Bill Cosby, who is an actor and a writer and an educator and a parent and just a very well-rounded person. So I thought he would be a good person to put in our videos. He said, "Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard." And it's the same for math. We talk about that all the time, that kids, when math comes really easy to you and you don't put a lot of effort into it, sometimes the kids that have a harder time with math but work super hard may eventually catch up with you and surpass you. So you've got to keep working hard at it if you're going to be good at it. Our learning goal today is multiply a fraction by a whole number. Here are our individual lesson learning goals. First of all, we're going to represent a whole number as a fraction, and we talked about how to do that the other day. We're going to multiply the two numerators after that, then multiply the two denominators, and then, like we do with any fraction problem, we convert any improper fractions to mixed numbers or whole numbers and simplify if needed. You can see some of the things that Bill Cosby did through the years here. You may not remember the Cosby Show. I grew up with the Cosby Show, but you probably grew up with Little Bill, and Little Bill's a pretty great kid. My kids grew up with him. Here is our vocabulary. This is vocabulary you should be very familiar with. A fraction. Remember, a fraction represents an amount greater than 0 and less than 1 whole. It's always less than 1 whole. So when we are talking about a fraction, it's an amount less than 1. A numerator is the number on the top of the fraction, the amount that is being represented out of the whole. And the denominator is the bottom number of the fraction. This is the number of parts in all. Those are some great pictures of Bill Cosby's early years. Bill Cosby always wore really crazy sweaters on his show, and so those are some examples of his really crazy cool sweaters. And of course, we always tried to wear those crazy fun sweaters to school too, because we thought he was really cool. Here is our example. Xavier wants to triple his lasagna recipe. If the recipe calls for 2/3 of a cup of cheese, how much cheese will he need if he triples that amount? Remember that when we look at the word triples, it means 3 times. Just like a triplet is 3 babies, triples is 3 times. So we would write this 3 times the fraction 2/3. Let's go ahead and look at how we would do that. So I've rewritten our problem, the whole number 3 times 2/3. So my first step is to write my whole number as a fraction. And to do that, I'm going to need to make an improper fraction because this is really not less than 1. It's 3. So if I write the 3 over a 1, I have it in fraction form. I have a numerator and a fraction bar and a denominator, but I actually have the amount 3. And watch this, because remember, when the number on top is bigger, you've got to send them to the house, send them home. It's not okay for the bigger number to be on top. And then 1 goes and knocks on the door. 1 goes into 3 whole times. 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So 3 over 1 is actually the whole number 3. Now that I've written it in fraction form, I can actually multiply it by another fraction. This is important because this is where kids make mistakes a lot of times. When we add and subtract fractions with unlike or different denominators, we have to find a common denominator, but not when we're multiplying or dividing. We can just multiply the two numerators and multiply the two denominators. Make sure you keep those separate so that you don't do the wrong thing when you're using either one of those operations. So I'll multiply my numerators. 3 times 2 is 6. Draw my fraction bar. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I have the fraction 6/3, which is an improper fraction, and where we don't ever leave them in improper fraction form. So since it's not okay for the bigger number to be on top, I'm going to send that bigger number 6 home, and 3 is going to go knock on the door. So 3 goes into 6 2 whole times. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. I don't have any parts left over, so I don't have another fraction. I just have the whole number 2. So we'll rewrite this. 3 times 2/3 is the whole number 2. I want to show you why that's true, though. So I'm going to draw a shape, and divide it into thirds. because we are doing 3 times 2/3. If I have 2/3 here and 2/3 here, and here's the third time I'm going to have 2/3 3 times, I have 2/3 3 times, I can count up how many thirds I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 out of 3 holes. You can see that I have 3 whole shapes there. That's where I get that 6, and that's where I get that 3. The 3 is how many holes I have, and the 6 is how many thirds I actually have. So maybe that will help you to see what you're actually doing when you're multiplying fractions. We're going to do some practice problems. Bill Cosby is just so funny. My mom used to laugh. She loved to let us watch his shows. He deals with really serious situations in life with humor, and he says it makes everything easier to bear. So he was also the first African-American actor in a dramatic series on TV way back in the 1960s. So he's both funny and he can be serious, and he's just really smart. He has his doctorate in education. So let's do a practice problem. Number 1, 1/5 of 40. Now remember, way back in the multiplication lessons, we talked about how when we have a multiplication symbol, we can also use the word of. So if we have 3 of 3, that means we have 3 groups of 3, or 3 times the amount 3. So 1/5 of 40 means 1/5 times 40. Write that down in your journal. Pause it when you figured it out and push play when you're ready to check your answer. Did you write 8? Boy, if you hadn't listened to the example, that would probably sound like a crazy answer to get, but let's see how we got that. So as we're looking at 1/5 of 40, we're doing both some multiplication in this problem and some division, even though our symbol that we're using is multiplication. We still got that division symbol right here in our fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this problem 1/5 times, because of stands for the multiplication symbol, times. And then I'm going to rewrite my whole number as a fraction. So I'll write my 40 as my numerator and my fraction bar, which means divided by, and 1 as my denominator. So this still represents the whole number 40. It's just written in a way that we can multiply 2 fractions together. So we multiply our numerators. 1 times 40 is 40, fraction bar. And 5 times 1, multiplying our denominators, is 5. Now we have an improper fraction, so it's not okay for 40 to be on the top. So we're going to send 40 home, and 5 goes to knock on the door. 5 won't go into 4, but 5 goes into 40 8 times. 5 times 8 is 40, and 40 minus 40 is 0. In these cases, converting our improper fractions, we haven't gotten a mixed number because we don't have any remainders that we're writing in as a numerator. So our answer is the whole number 8. 1/5 of 40 equals 8. So if we took 40 and we divided it into 5 parts, we would have 8. Number 2, 25 times 4/5. This way we just wrote it as a multiplication problem, not as a word problem. So go ahead and work that problem, pause it, and push play when you're ready to go over the answer. Did you write 20? Let's see how we got that one. So I rewrote the problem, 25 the whole number times 4/5 the fraction, and I'll rewrite my whole number 25 as a fraction, 25 over 1 times 4/5. And now I can multiply my numerators. 25 times 4. Well, if we think of quarters and dollar bills, we know that 25 times 4 is 100. And 1 times 5 is 5. But we have an improper fraction. So we're going to have to send 100 to the house, and 5's going to go knock on the door. 5 won't go into 1, but 5 goes into 10 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. Bring down the 0. 5 goes into 0 0 times. Remember, in division we have to have a roof over every room in our house. So the x is over the 1, the 2 is over the 0, and we'll have to fill that in with a 0. 0 times 5 is 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So the answer to 25 times 4/5 equals the whole number 20. Number 3, 3/7 of 14. Go ahead and pause it, figure it out, and push play when you've written the answer in your journal. Did you write 6? Let's go over it. So I'm going to write 3/7 of 14 as a multiplication problem. So 3/7 of means to multiply, and I'll rewrite my whole number 14 as 14 over 1. And now I'm ready to multiply. I happen to not know what 3 times 14 is off the top of my head, so I'm going to come over here and check it because I could guess, but I might be wrong, and then I've wasted time. So 3 times 4 is 12. Carry my 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So it is 42. And my denominator, 7 times 1, is 7. So I have an improper fraction. I've got to send 42 to the house, and 7 goes to knock on the door. 7 won't go into 4, but 7 goes into 42 6 times. 7 times 6 is 42. And 42 minus 42 is 0. So 3/7 of 14 is the whole number 6. Now we're going to practice a word problem. There's some great scenes from the Cosby Show right there. Number 4, Major has 8 eggs in the refrigerator. He will need to use 3/4 of them to make an omelet. How many eggs will he need to use? So think about how we're going to write that as a multiplication problem, and pause this and push play when you're ready. Did you write Major will need to use 6 of the eggs in his refrigerator to make an omelet? You saw words because it's a word problem, so I hope you gave me words in your answer. Let's go ahead and see how we figured that out. 3/4 of 8 eggs. So we know that 3/4 of 8 eggs can be written as a multiplication problem. 3/4 of, we'll substitute with our multiplication symbol, and we'll rewrite our whole number 8 as 8 over 1. Now we can multiply our numerators. 3 times 8 is 24, and 4 times 1 is 4 for our denominator. Again, improper fractions, so it's not okay for 24 to be on top of a smaller number, so we're going to send 24 to the house, and 4 will go knock on the door. 4 won't go into 2, but it goes into 24 6 whole times. 4 times 6 is 24, and 24 minus 24 is 0. Now, I do want to show you a picture really quickly of why this would be true. So if we have 8 eggs, and we know that we're looking at 3/4 of them, if we divide these 8 eggs into 4 parts, here you've got one group of eggs, there's another group of eggs, and there's another group of eggs, and another group. And you're going to use 3 of those 4 parts. There's 2, 4, and 6, because there's 3 of 4 parts we're going to use. 3 of 4 parts. 3/4 of 8 equals 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's time to challenge yourself. Those are some funny expressions of Bill Cosby again. Here we go. Claire has 639 eggs in the refrigerator. If she will need to use 2/3 of the eggs to make brownies for the class, good idea, Claire. How many of the eggs will she use? Show your work in your flip journal and come to class ready to check your answer tomorrow. Finishing up, go ahead and review your learning goals. Write down in your journal any that you might be having trouble with. Give yourself a 1, 2, or 3 level in your learning. Make sure you write that in your journal. Also, write down any questions you still have. Fascinating fractions. You have completed lesson 11-2, multiply fractions and whole numbers. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.